Shaw Studios and on Kamilla Singh show, I have brought two of the activists from the community, and we haven't been talking to them for a while. But I think it's about time that we bring them back and talk about a lot of issues that are happening in our community. One is the farmer strike. We want to know, farmer strike started in November and we are in April 2021. What has changed? What has not changed? How many lives have been lost during that? And the other topic that we will be discussing a little bit will be on international students. Where are they? Some of them don't have jobs. Their immigration papers hasn't been renewed and they can't go back. So it's all mixture of everything. So welcome both of you, Dupinder Saran and Haman Pandar, the school teacher. You are a healthcare nurse. So both of them given them time up to come and talk to you about the issues that are very close and dear to your heart. So thank you, Dimple. I always call you Dimple. Yeah. It's such a beautiful name.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for staying, Haman. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamilla.
Thank you so much, Kamilla.
So let's start with touch base with what do you know now or what's happening with the farmers' strike in India.
So if we look at the farmers' protests in India, I mean, they've been peacefully protesting since November, as we know, and on the Canadian grounds here, a lot of people have been supporting them by protesting as well in different various areas of Canada. When it comes to the Indian government, though, we're unfortunate and sad to say that, you know, not much has been of sort of an upfront issue with them in changing anything that's been occurring since day one that the protests have started. I mean, a lot of the protesters initially were detained illegally for activism, and there were many, many issues in regards to that. We were also seeing some of the protests, the farmers at the sidelines there passing away at the Delhi borders, which was really sad. So, you know, we started off around 200 or so that had passed, and now numbers have climbed up to, you know, past 350. The protests that are happening in support of in various countries, UK, Canada, US, Australia, elsewhere, they've been, bringing to the forefront these kind of current issues that have been happening on the protest sites. We do have volunteers that have gone from various organizations from even within different countries to help out at the borders, which is great to see, because the peaceful protesting, I don't see an end to it at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're in it for the long haul. You know, the farmers have said that they've stuck to their principles, and it's unfortunate, like Dupinder said, what's the stance the government is taking, which is basically just letting them sit out there, and as we've seen, over 350 have died during this protest. Just terrible. These are our elders, grandparents out there. At first they were going through winter, now they're going through the summer heat. It's had an effect, you know, on community here. They feel it. They feel empathy and sympathy, helplessness of, you know, what can we do to support them? People have made donations to these, you know, organizations such as Khalsa Aid and others who are providing support on the ground there. And the protests continue here locally to amplify, you know, this cause, right? To continue to get the message out, and no farmers, no food, no future. The international spotlight has been on the protest, right? The largest labor protest in human history. It's been documented, and, you know, celebrities such as Rihanna, and then, you know, globally known activists like Greta Thunberg and others have, you know, supported the cause, and it's great, but it doesn't seem to have had any effect on the Indian government, Prime Minister Modi, and that's a real shame. It's really turning, you know, crime against humanity, really, because there's just a total lack of humanity And from a government, that your job as a government is to protect your people, to support your people, right? And not even talking to them, right? Is just boggles the mind. If that situation was happening in Canada, imagine that.
Yeah.
Farmers in Canada were on the streets,
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the Prime Minister, Trudeau, not coming and
coming.
talking to them and bringing an end to this? So we can't stop talking about it, but I hope there's action soon.
So do you think, to both of you, what is going through the people's mind or the government of Canada, Modi and his party? What are they thinking? They think the farmers going to be here, they get tired and they will go back, or it will get resolved? What is going through? There got to be something in their head. What are they thinking?
Well, I mean, they're led by, as we've seen, lots of big corporations are behind the scenes with the government involved there. And so that is the whole reason these issues had come up to the forefront in anyway to begin with. The 3 ordinances were put in place accordingly, where the big corporations will be benefiting from all of this. And so, realistically, power and money and ego has a lot to do with it. Once you make a decision, governments don't like to take back or kind of go back on their word just because that makes them feel like they are showing their weakness, right? And so at times, in certain aspects of this type of a situation, you won't really see the government back off easy, right? And so I think that's a big struggle. And what surprises us, though, is because the national level and the international level that the story has taken place, and it's the largest human history protest, peaceful protest that has taken place. In regards to that the government not making a move is really disheartening, and to show that's how much stubbornness or ego or power that they're showing, in controlling. It's almost like a fascism kind of government forming there, where it's dictatorship, right? You do as we say or else, and that's kind of why they were detaining people illegally to begin with.
And so I think maybe when other governments start to raise this as a human rights issue, around illegal detention of activists, of journalists even, and the treatment that they receive when they are detained, right, has been horrible. So, raising it in that light, right, human rights, and then maybe putting economic pressure, because that's like money talks, right? And it's really, the small farmers, those, family farms are being pushed out, and this has happened around the world too. But they can't compete. They can't even make enough to make ends meet, right? To just meet the cost of living and to do so. They at least have the right to have a decent income. Right? And I think that's all they want. They want to be able to sustain their farms, and but it seems like the corporations are calling the shots, and they've given money to the government. So now they don't care what the ordinary person is going through.
So do you think our government, our Prime Minister, and we have so many Apne people in the office in Ottawa, do you think that there is a pressure from them for Prime Minister of Canada to take a stand? Because we are voters too, right? We are the one that put them there. So when the whole world has come to halt and is the biggest protest in the history of the world, and nobody is moving an inch, can we lay a blame on our management or our Prime Minister as well?
So, when we talk about other governments around the world, including our government here, I think exactly what Harman touched upon, human rights. Canada is a big, sort of leader. It takes a leadership in when it comes to human rights issues, and for the government to not take a strong stand at this point is again disheartening. It's not like our PM hasn't spoken up. He has, but it's not to that degree that you would see them speak up about other human rights issues. And I think that is what is causing a lot of the protests, even within Canada, to continue. You know, the protesters out here have been supporting the Indian farmers from day one, and have also protested for the same amount of time that they have been doing it out there. And this is one of the reasons the protests will not stop here as well, is to show that, you know what, we are still supporting the Indians back home. At the end of the day, that's our roots and our next generation for the farmers out there. That's their, like Carmen has said, they want to sustain their farmlands. They want to make sure that for their next generation they have that income that is coming in, which is very important. And so if our government doesn't take a strong stand like we'd like them to, then yes, I think we are at fault, because we as Canadians should be fighting and facing any sort of human rights issues out there.
I mean, yeah, we have every right to ask our government to speak up, right? They represent us, and if it's something important to us as a community here, then yeah, they have that responsibility. They should. You know, we live in a global village. We're so connected, right? And so it's not that there's a problem happening on the other side of the world, right? We, as we've talked about all, you know, issues, or we're so connected during this pandemic, right? You know, something starts on the other side of the world, and here, and we're all in the middle of this global pandemic. But then we talk about the pandemic of racism. It affects so many of us, right? And then this type of situation, right? The right, first of all, just farmers around the world, how important they are, right? But then the right to protest, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of protest, right? Peaceful protest, and not to have like authoritarian, you know, tactics used against, you know, to shut down protest, tear gas, water cannons, police brutality, illegal detention, internet being cut off, right? Blackout situations like that. That's what's being done, right? And luckily, the messages are still getting out, pictures are getting out, but yeah, I think we got to keep up the pressure, and more can be said, more can be done. Not everyone has spoken out, right? Not everyone has spoken out. I know India is an economic power, you know, it is, you know, and there are these, you know, this delicate balancing act, and don't want to you don't want to antagonize an ally, and but when you know, when human rights are being violated in those situations, have to speak out. You have to speak out.
I was going to say, looking at the clock, let's change the subject. And there are international students in here, and most.
I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated. Buying or selling a house is a difficult process. Get Prem Prakash from Saba Realty Limited to find you your dream home, whether it's your first house, upgrading, or investment property. Always at your service with a fast, friendly, and honest opinion. Prem Prakash will guide you through the entire process. Get in touch with him today for a free, no-obligation consultation at 778-840-5866.
Human rights are being violated in those situations, have to speak out. You have to speak out.
I was going to say, looking at the clock, let's change the subject. And there are international students in here, and most of the international students, as we all know, come from the province of Punjab. And these international students, their parents, grandparents, family members, they own farm there, and that's how they were afford to able to send their children for further studies in Canada. And so can you highlight a little bit on what's happening with the international students when the universities are closed down and they don't have job? How do they support? How are they surviving?
Right. So, I mean, we do see a lot of struggles on the international student side as well right now, currently with the farmers' protests happening as well, and limited financial means allowed to be coming out of the country from India to here without additional interest, or, you know, there's certain policies and laws that have changed around how much money they can be sending out there at a time. And the tuition fees on this end are 3 times the amount, right? And so what happens is with COVID involved, with the farmers' protests involved, these students are seeing a lot of hardship because there's lack of employment, like you said right now. There's classes happening online. And so, first of all, they're already lacking resources compared to the domestic students because either, you know, they don't know where to find resources or they need the guidance. So people like us do help them in that regard. Or there's lack of resources generally for them, which are culturally sensitive to their needs. And so basically, we're finding that with all of this, these factors in place, where they're lacking resources, they're now doing classes online, but still paying. At this point, the tuition fees have even gone up. They're gone up to 4 to 5 times higher. Before they were 3 times. And so their tuition fees have increased. There's lack of employment. Due to the farmers' protests, their parents can send out only, you know, a certain amount of sort of funds out here. Plus the parents are now struggling back home with their farms. So it's like a domino effect on the students, and mental health has become a huge issue for them here. And so we've been trying to assist them. You know, many nonprofit organizations have come together to try and assist them in these different areas. And, you know, we see cases where even recently I had somebody reach out to me, one of the students reach out to me, and she had like a $9,000 tuition fee to pay within a week. And her parents couldn't get the money out here, and they were lacking, you know, they've already picked up lots of loans on their farmland back home. So and then she's only working part-time here, 20 hours a week. So how can she afford that? It's impossible, right? You know, we as Canadians find that kind of fee to be paying up front really difficult. So how can a student who is like in their early 20s or late teens be able to afford a $9,000 bill within a week? And so she was really struggling. You know, I got the phone call, and then I had to find within my connections, collect money for her to help her pay that fee. So, you know, we're as a community, we're supporting one another, but realistically that should not be happening where they have to be dependent on community members to be donating money like that to them, right?
True.
Yeah. No, couldn't agree more. And Deepinder knows, and Kamilla, you know, one of the organizations I've become involved in and helped get off the ground is SUCH, the SUCH Community Hub. SUCH stands for South Asian Community Hub. And Deepinder has come to us, and we're getting busier. People are reaching out because they can't find, you know, the services they need, and they're looking for culturally sensitive services, linguistic services to like access these resources. The resources are out there. They don't know how to get access, right? And so we're this umbrella organization. We look to support diverse communities, diverse populations to ensure that they get access to the supports they need, social services, health services, income assistance. There could be situations of fleeing domestic abuse and violence, and even so homelessness, poverty, food security, the whole gambit. And so we're seeing more and more community members in need, right? From whether they're South Asian community, we're not limiting it to the South Asian community, but we are providing services that are culturally sensitive, right? And we're taking a South Asian perspective to the work we do. So if people want to get in touch, they can go to our website at www.suchbc.ca, SACHBC.ca, and they can email us at intake@suchbc.ca. That's INTAKE at suchbc.ca if they need help or if someone they know is in need of support.
Or somebody who cannot pay the rent, and they got kicked out of from their homes or wherever, and then maybe you will be able to provide housing for them temporary.
Any situation, we working with partner organizations, working with ministry. So don't think that there's anything too small or too big. We will try to help them any way we can.
Do you think that the students that are here, and if they are having bills like $9,000, I cannot even, somebody says pay 9,000, I don't have that kind of money to be paying for the school, and these are the students and only 20 hours. Do you think the government, especially since we've been under lockdown over a year, that they should give them the PR so these students can find a half decent job or be able to work 40 hours?
Right. So, like One Voice Canada is an organization which is for international students, right? And so we were formed 2 years ago. And we also, just like how Such collaborates with other organizations, we collaborate with multi organizations out there, whether it's, Options in the Community or Khalsa Aid or WSO or Guru Nanak Free Kitchen and many other organizations who assist in helping students particularly. So we're aimed at, just international students. And on our directors panel, we do have international students who are either former international students or international students currently. And so they understand the needs of the students and they're able to assist them. And we take case by case and we help them out the same way. We do intake the cases. So if somebody, comes to us and says, I'm having PR problems or I'm having work permit problems, I'm having college or landlord problems or employer exploitation. So we deal with a lot of exploitation cases. We advocate for the students and we also mediate as needed in trying to help the students with any of the concerns they have. We do have immigration consultants and lawyers and police on the back end and nurses and counselors volunteering their time to help these students. So at the end of the day, when it comes to PR, we did a lot of advocacy work around PR and that these students, when they come here, they aren't planning on going back. We all know that. They come here for a better life and eventually they want their work permit and eventually they're going to get the PR. But to exploit them through that system is terrible, right? So we have been doing a lot of advocacy work and I'm happy to say recently 90,000 the migrant workers and the students recently have been given sort of a free sort of a quicker pass to get their PR. We saw it happen last year as well where there at one point they did say the PR will be made quicker within 18 months now. But is that good enough? That's really not, I'll be honest, because if you look at the amount of students coming in compared to the level of how many students they're allowing for, in this particular case, it's 40,000 that can go ahead and, receive their PR quicker if they're in technical trades or in sort of healthcare industries or industries that are really required with the employment side. So we're happy to state that, there is progress, but is it to the level we need it? Not quite, because in that progress, there's also exploitation happening now. They're to get their IELTS and they're to get certain criteria met before they can actually apply for the PR that route. And what is happening is a lot of schools now who do IELTS programs where it's normally a couple of $100 charge are now charging them $2,000 and up for the IELTS. So exploitation happening again within that process. So even though we have one good thing happening, it's not solving the problem of the exploitation. So it's put the students at kind of risk for that side of trying to make sure they're able to pay those fees and bills that are coming in for them. Yeah.
So I'm looking at the clock. We are getting close to. I will just ask you, what do you expect? How could people be able, that are watching you today, be able to either help with the farmer strike, if there is any protest or rally, anybody can go and join and show your support, because without farmers, we can't even live. We all know that, either farmers here or another country. And about the international level, about the students being exploited, what would you like to wrap up? What would you like to say?
Well, I really...
What can community do? What can anyone else watching?
So on the farmers' end, I would really, I think the community support is very, very much needed, and human rights issues are at stake. So therefore, governments do need to take a stronger stand, and like Harman said, on the human rights issues. And I mean, there's a lot of politicians standing up, which is great to see and hear, but we need more. We need a lot more work done on that end. On the student side, I would, state the same. I think our colleges here and governments need to take a step up and start to provide these resources that nonprofits are starting to provide for them in order to assist these students, because it's greatly needed.
Kamilla, I would say, a personal level, people can reach out to their elected representatives, right? They can send an email, send a letter saying that this is important to me, here's the issue as I understand it, please will you raise it? Will you raise it in the House of Commons, in the legislature, city councils can pass motions. It all is important, right? It adds up. And so they can do that. They can use their own social media and get the word out. I even my own students, elementary school students, this is important to them, right? They're writing about this issue in their assignments, they're creating artwork, they're posting on their social media, right? So it matters. As far as the other issues that we're dealing with here locally, look up One Voice Canada, support organizations like One Voice Canada, check out what we're doing at Such BC, right? Go to suchbc.ca, and others, Guru Nanak's Free Kitchen, Call Said, is doing work here in Canada, Call Said Canada, the South Asian Mental Health Alliance. So many they're working, and we're increasingly working together more. We are going to hold the government's feet to the fire a little bit, that they need to support the work that we're doing on the ground, right? Because we're doing community service. We're doing work for the people, right? So that needs to be appreciated as well, right? And so, of course, charitable organizations, but I hope to see more synergy and cooperation with government, working hand in hand with these organizations as well.
Thank you to both of you so much. Be able to come on a Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday to be able and talk to our people. Thank you.
Thank you for
Kamilla.
having us.
Thank you.